Hey guys, welcome back to another live show on the Inside Texas YouTube channel. Joined here by Nash Talks Texas and Mr. Nick Urias. Who is Nick? You ask. He's the man that's going to tell us all we need to know about the San Jose State Spartans as they get ready to come to the great state capital of Texas and battle Sark's Horns. 11 a.m. Central Time there at DKR. Welcome Nash. Welcome Nick. How we doing, gentlemen?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, fellas, and excited for Spartans and Longhorns this Saturday.
How about you, Nash? You doing all right up there, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, hey, I'm ready to get a game inside DKR. I've been itching for this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Don't particularly love that it's bright and early. 11 o'clock kickoff time. I want to see the night crowd come out after a full day of tailgating. Want to see, the light show. But we'll get to that. And and for the meantime, I'm going to go and tell you guys what you can do since you can't show up to DKR at night, and that is subscribe to Inside Texas, your number one source for Longhorn fans, insider notes, recruiting scoops, and in-depth analysis, all in one place. You join today for just $1 for your first week, and you'll receive a complimentary year to The Athletic. Don't miss out. Please subscribe now, guys. All right, Mr. Nick, welcome to Inside Texas. Thanks for being here again. Talk to us, man. When I look at San Jose State, I know you got a former Navy head coach there, and Ken Matalolo. I know second year in the program. I know that you guys are going to throw the football around a little bit, but talk to us about the Spartans and what kind of opportunity it is, to play. Not saying big bad Texas, not giving you that vibe. But it is a big deal for these small schools when you match up with some of these big schools, blue bloods, if you will, and what kind of opportunity it provides for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, San Jose State doesn't get too many of these games this often, especially against an SEC opponent. This is like their third SEC opponent since 2019. So, I mean, just tells you just kind of how much volume this game really means. For a team like San Jose State that, quite frankly, has been in the basement of the Mountain West, prior to that, I'd say since, 2020. Now this is a team that's got tons of more expectations, and this has been a game that's been, scheduled for years in advance. So they're most definitely looking forward to the opportunity. This is hands down their toughest game on the schedule. I would say that, they would have loved the win last week against the Central Michigan team, first-year head coach, brand new offense, brand new defense. They were a sizable favorite in that game in their home opener, and they lose 16-14. So that was definitely not a good sign. They had 3 turnovers in that game. And just overall, offensively, defensively, special teams, all 3 phases, they were just kind of out of whack, which you would expect from week 1. But with the amount of returning production that the Spartans had, they were, probably like second in the Mountain West as far as returning production. I think fans were a little surprised by that result and just the way the team looked as a whole.
I could definitely, empathize with that as another team that, we started off 0-1, obviously didn't look the way a lot of people assume that we'd look, particularly on one side of the football. I think the Mountain West is still one of the more fun conferences to keep up. You got the likes of Air Force, Colorado State, Utah State, San Jose State, some really fun matchups, really fun schools, big traditions down there as well. And so, you still got some SEC folks that are paying attention and keeping up with what's going on around there. We talked a little bit about you guys wanting to throw the football around. Talk to us about that a little bit. What's the quarterback matchup? How experienced is this young man, Mr. Walker? What's the wide receiving room look like? Obviously, Scudero just had a very, very big game in week 1. But rushing numbers didn't really jump off the charts against Central Michigan. And, maybe is that going to be just product of the scheme there? You're never going to have crazy rushing yards when you go full air raid the way that y'all do. But, yeah, just a little more in depth on that passing attack, if you will.
Yeah, no doubt. Craig Stutzman, offensive coordinator, year 2 out here in San Jose. He calls it the spread and shred offense. It's got, pretty much I would say it's not full on run and shoot, but it's got, variations of it. It's very much, much more simpler concepts that, kind of turn into all these explosives, yards after the catch and, things within that nature. The scheme is very much, set up for wide receivers to succeed. And, quarterbacks, talk to the backups, the starters, you name it. They all love playing in this offense. We saw the success of Nick Nash last year, Triple Crown, winner of receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, led the nation in all those statistical categories. And, to your point, Scudero's definitely in the forefront of potentially doing that, lighting up the stat sheet. But to talk about the quarterback, Walker Egan, this is kind of the first year of him really starting in the sense where he's the guy. And, he's been the guy penciled in at QB1 since after the Hawaii Bowl, due to all the commotion that we had in San Jose last year with the quarterback position, a battle through camp last year between Walker Egan and Emmett Brown, who's now at Coastal Carolina. But Emmett Brown and Walker were going back and forth. Emmett won the job, took the job for about weeks 1 through 4. Nevada, when he played Nevada in the first game of the Mountain West, it kind of threw him a crazy game plan, couldn't really handle it. And then it was kind of this revolving door at quarterback for about 4 weeks. And the noise was pretty loud out here in the Bay Area. Like, hey, are we going to commit to a guy? What's going on here? Ultimately, the coaching staff goes with Walker Egan, and it's really been his team ever since then. And he's kind of taken, the keys and really ran with it. And now he's the full-time guy. And I have to say, this is going to be a really good test for him, especially coming off the week 1. What I would say probably a lousy, and he would probably tell you a lousy performance, having 2 interceptions and a fumble in the process last week. So I think a good challenge for him and a good challenge for just this entire team this weekend.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you're a quarterback, obviously in the air raid system. You're going to throw the ball around. You're going to have, more interceptions than a guy that's lined up in a pro style and, maybe has a big running game to depend on. 43 passing attempts in week 1 in the loss to the Chippewas. That is not, something that they were doing because they got down a couple scores. That is how that's how they play football. And that's my kind of offense. I love seeing that. So me personally, I love this matchup. It makes Texas's defensive backs, see something that they're not going to see week in and week out. It gives us a little bit of a look when we see teams like Oklahoma later down the line. So I'm a big fan of the matchup. So we'll see what goes on Saturday at DKR with the Spartans. I know Texas is going to show up probably a little angry there in that spot. But yeah, when you look at Texas from a San Jose perspective, what do you see in the program and about this particular version of Texas football?
I mean, look, Texas has got some high hopes this year. I mean, right? And there's no doubt it's an uphill battle. I mean, you see that we're a 5 touchdown underdog, but I do think in a sense that there are some opportunities for San Jose State to attack. And guys, let me just tell you something right now. They're not going to run the ball this game. A lot of fans have been quite vocal about, just how come we're not running the ball? I mean, they were 130th in rushing production last year, and there were only like 132 teams at the FBS level. And, they've wanted to, go in the direction of having a little bit more of a balanced attack, but we really didn't see that last week, despite it being a 1-score game all throughout. So I don't think you're going to run the ball this game. I do think the Spartans are going to come firing out early, to the point where, they're going to just come out and 1st and 10, any down and distance, they're going to throw it. So I think Scudero's the guy. I think Leland Smith, a transfer from Purdue, can complement him. He's kind of our guy on the outside that, hey, go get ourselves a 50-50 ball and come down with it. He's also from Houston, Texas, so he's going to have some friends and family in the building for this weekend's game. So a potential, Leland Smith bomb at some point in this game wouldn't shock me. But I mean, it's a great opportunity for San Jose State. And just a side note as well, guys, this is the earliest San Jose State is playing a football game since 2016 since they've went to Iowa State. So it's just an interesting dynamic as far as the clock in the football players' minds.
No, you're completely right there. For y'all that didn't realize that, I mean, their body clocks will be at 9 a.m. At 9 a.m. local time, and it's not like they're spending a week in Austin, Texas. They're probably going to fly in Friday morning, And, from there, you try to adjust the best that you can. I have no doubt that on any down and any distance, that the Spartans are going to be throwing the football. They'll probably try to make Texas cover every, blade of grass out there, the width of the field. They'll try to go vertical. What I really like about your week one attack, y'all attempted passes, Mr. Egan, to 10 different wide receivers. Obviously you look at Danny, he's got Danny Scudero with 15 targets there. But when you throw the ball 43 times, you're going to have some variance. You're going to spread it out. 10 targets, so it's not like you can just have 10 different players targeted. It's not like you can just really key in on, like you said, a Leland Smith, who did have a 39-yard reception. So it is, he can make a big play. It's well said. It's really fun. Again, I could talk about the passing attacks all day. Nash, what are your thoughts? A little bit of a love for the Spartans in the passing attack, or is this you think Texas comes out hot, angry, and we really never get to see that firepower that maybe the Spartans possess?
Yeah, no, the San Jose State Spartans are going to pass the ball, right? Like, it doesn't even matter. It does not matter which way they're. Like, if you look at their splits, their splits say we pass the ball, right? Especially in game one. Doesn't matter if they're up or down. It's also, I think it's looking at Ohio State's lack of success versus Texas in the run game. San Jose State's probably just common sense going, hey, like, it's already not our strong suit, and then that might be one of their strongest points on their defense. So let's just go ahead and let's start attacking other, places that we're more, prepared to attack. Nick, you might have already answered this. I wanted to see, like, who do you think, because I obviously, Nash, I'm going to follow my Nashes around the country. Nick Nash, absolute stud, right? Triple Crown Award winner. Wild that he didn't get drafted, but we're not here for that. Who do you think is their most likely candidate to replace him as just like because Cord mentioned, hey, y'all got a lot of targets out to a lot of guys. Who's y'all's like, hey, plays on the line, third down, we need 10 yards right here. Who are we throwing it to?
Yeah, I would say that's maybe the beauty of the Spartan offense is this year is their depth at that wide receiver position. I've talked to, Coach Stutzman, offensive coordinator, Coach Ken, and they're like, hey, we feel good about a lot of guys. I would have had the number one answer for you. Like if we had this game last year, it's going to Nash or it's going to Lockhart, and Lockhart not on the team anymore. He went pro himself. But we had some guys that did get banged up last week. So that might also go into, 10 different guys catching the ball. Matthew Coleman, another slot guy that lit things up in the Hawaii Bowl versus South Florida last year. He went out with an injury, did practice this week. So I would expect him to play. Malachi Riley did not return, our other wide receiver out transfer from Arizona. I would say he's very much a question mark for this game. I would probably leaning him towards him not playing, but I would expect it to be Scudero. And if it's not Scudero, maybe they go to one of those concepts very similar with the Leland Smith. But Matthew Coleman's our other slot guy that they feel really comfortable with, so he could be that other guy if Scudero is if he has a couple receptions early, Texas makes those adjustments. Matthew Coleman could be your guy. We also haven't really seen. We saw some glimpses of a guy that was a little bit more deeper in the depth charts. It's actually Tua's cousin, by the way, Tagovailoa Amosa. He made a couple snags, towards the second half last week with all the injuries. So that could be a guy that's a little bit more deeper in the depth chart that does get his opportunity. But this is a Scudero and Coleman type of performance, if you will. If it's that 3rd and 5, hey, we need ourselves a first down.
I think,
well said, man.
I think Steve Sarkisian has probably already, tried to get an inside scouting report on that cousin.
Oh yeah,
I love it, man. We do have a couple more questions about your Spartans, particularly on offense. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Roback.
There's only one way to describe Roback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. with novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs from some of your favorite schools like Texas, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. Both are super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that's made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars like Quinn Ewers. They are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. Use the code TEXAS20 on roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's RHOBACK.com and 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with TEXAS20.
I tell you, man, as a golfer, I'm quite familiar with Roback and the quality of product that they put out. Just had to throw that out there. Any other fellow golfers that might be watching, or anyone just likes Roback in general, a lot of good stuff. All right, Nick, you don't necessarily, it's not like the Spartans are going to drop back and say, okay, we're in a 3-step, 5-step drop every single snap, and we're just going to hum it. There's going to be a lot of short stuff. There's going to be some screen game. You're going to see some quicks. You saw that with Ohio State. That's one way to combat a really elite pass rush that we haven't necessarily seen yet from Texas, but definitely know that the talent is there to have, and we expect. So you'll see a lot of that. Texas fans, you're going to see a ton of that. They don't want to sit there and drop back and face a Colin Simmons and company, for 3.5, 4 hours. That's not a path to pulling off a very big upset. But what I want to know, Nick, how often do you think we might see a wildcat in this game? When you talk about a nice change of pace. Obviously, you put an athlete back there, but at the same time, it's kind of a dead giveaway. And then you're going to have Texas kind of, oh, okay, we know what's going on here. And it's a different type of athlete, than what San Jose State saw last week with Central Michigan. So do you like the package, and how much would you expect to see it this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. The package shocked me when I was in the box week 1. I mean, Tame Amasone, freshman quarterback, he was a guy that actually lit it up in the spring game. I know it's hard to get your hands on spring games these days, but this was a guy that was, had a couple scampers for like 40 yards in that game. Can throw a deep ball as well, but I like the package. I don't know how successful it will be with an opponent in a front like Texas. So it could be something that the Spartans throw out there. I wouldn't maybe suspect it in a game like this, but if they are looking for a change in direction, maybe a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and inches, maybe they don't want to just run Walker straight into the ground. San Jose State, I think, does need to be smart in this game because, quite honestly, they're trying to be in this thing for the long haul. They have their sights set on a Mountain West championship, which is very much up for grabs, and they have most certainly the roster to do it this year. So I think most importantly is, if Tame Amasone can be that guy, if in that certain down and distance and for that, change in pace. But I'd say most importantly, getting out of this game is getting out of here alive and no major injuries.
Amen to that. Go ahead, Nash.
I was going to say athletic quarterback with a deep ball. That sounds like just a perfect storm for a nice little flea flicker. So,
hey, I'm not going to rule it out. I mean,
on their P's and Q's.
Yeah. Well, and I will say this, Coach Stutzman is one of these guys, like, he'll come up with some of these crazy, like, packages. Like, Nash, you saw with Nick Nash last year that, a former quarterback, he was throwing the ball, and he had a couple passing touchdowns last year. So he's going to utilize everybody's skill set. And it might be, the 3rd or 4th string quarterback that ends up making a crazy play. So can't rule out anything in this game, quite honestly, because they got a really good and a creative play caller on the offensive side.
Oh, well said. I mean, and it's all situational, right? Because you kind of alluded to it. The key is to get out of this game with full health. Maybe find out a little bit more about. You have bigger goals down the season. And you do want to win the football game, obviously. Think about what it does for San Jose State recruiting. You'd have to imagine more buy-in from, the people that the hat is passed to. there would be obviously a big, massive boost around that area. I mean, just got to call it how it is. But at the same time, you want to get out of there healthy. So you have to, toe that line of where we're throwing the kitchen sink at them while not revealing too much of our bag, to these Mountain West coaches, and also staying healthy, but obviously putting forth the best foot to win the football game. So it's going to be interesting. It's a tough spot. I'm always curious to see, because you can always kind of tell when one of these coaches at the G5, G6 level, they understand, like, hey, we have a shot to win this, and it's time to crank it up. And it might just be with scheme or play calling, but talk to us a little bit about the defensive side of the football. What kind of scheme are we looking at there? And is there any names that Longhorn fans are going to really, know after Saturday?
Yeah, you're pretty much for this Spartan defense, you're going to see, 3 on the defensive line and them have 4 linebackers and, 2 high safeties for the most part, with 2 corners. Honestly, like, San Jose State has had an underrated pipeline of having, a star, defensive lineman and a really good linebacker. Jordan Pollard at the line, he's been with us for a couple of years now at the linebacker position.
Mm-hmm.
This kid is a tackle machine. He had 96 tackles last year. He was a first team All Mountain West last year. He was on the preseason list this year. He's coming off a 15 tackle performance last week versus Central Michigan. This guy is just all over the place. So he's a guy that you'll know his name probably by the end of this ball game. No Fafana on the defensive line. He's like our nose guard, nose tackle. He's been expected to, there's been a lot of high praise from him. Like, hey, he could have himself a big year. We've had a tons of those guys in years past. Cade Hall, Junior Fahoko. Last year was a Sowane Toia. At that very same position that Funa plays. So those are some 2 names to keep an eye on. But what I'm looking for, just from somebody, out here in the Bay Area and, has my tabs on San Jose State, I want to see what the secondary looks like, because in particular, the cornerback position, because we had 2 guys last year that were awesome in DJ Harvey and Michael Dansby. They both transfer out to Power 4s. And now, especially with the game plan for Central Michigan last week, going 13, 14 personnel, running the ball 50 times last week, guys, we really didn't get to see these 2 corners in action. We're starting a redshirt freshman who Coach Ken Niumatalolo said he had the best fall camp on our entire team. So Jalen Thomas, number 29, he's a redshirt freshman, made his first start last week for Central Michigan. Really didn't get to see him too much in action as far as, out there in man coverage. So I'm very intrigued to see him out there in the Spartan blue and gold. And, on the other side, number 15, Jalen Boehner, another guy, back up, got his opportunities last year, in some injuries and some spots, but we really haven't seen him in full force. So those are 2 guys I have circled. And I imagine Texas maybe goes to them just because of all the uncertainty in that area. So the Longhorns could potentially get those wide receivers involved and, just to really see what the Spartans got out there in one-on-one.
I think that's going to be a big point of emphasis, is to get Arch Manning and our wide receivers more rapport, more reps together, live in-game reps on the field after, a few hours struggle in Columbus on Saturday. So thank you for informing us. So, I love that we get to watch Jalen and see if he's up for the challenge. Who's he matched up with? Is it Ryan Wingo? Is it Parker Livingston on the other side? But yeah, I definitely think that you're going to see a Texas team that comes out trying to run the football again. But there's going to be an emphasis on throwing that ball around. I'd love to see Ryan Wingo get involved. What's up with Larry Turner Gooden? Have you any news there?
Yeah, I know he's a former Texas Longhorn himself. I know it's been kind of an interesting ride for him, right? Because he initially committed to Texas and then, never really got the playing time. And then he's just kind of been all over the place in San Jose. And you would think, to a point in an upperclassman that's been in the pipeline, you would think he would kind of get, that opportunity. It's kind of been all over the place with him. So we'll see if he gets on the field. I think he's on like the 2 deep depth chart for us, but it's he's kind of, just been one of those guys where, when you're getting an offer from a place like Texas and then you transfer down to a place like San Jose, you would think you would kind of get on the field. So it's been an interesting journey for him, and you know, he's kind of getting up there in age right now, so I think he's still trying to figure it out.
Hey, don't say that around me and Cord, man.
Was he a
We're
soft
old.
spot
We're
for you
old,
guys?
man. We're old. Say we're old.
I don't know what he's talking about. I'm the old one if there's anyone old in this room. You know, I'm rooting for the kid. I hope it does work out for him, of course. You know, got involved in his recruitment and follow that. And you never, you know, you want it to work out for these guys, whether they're committed to your school or not. At the end of the day, they're just kids chasing a dream. So rooting for Larry, man. I got just two more things for you here, and Nick, and we'll let you get on your way. What are your expectations? Like, what are you expecting here in the Mountain West? You know, you said that it is a conference title that is up for grabs and that the roster is built to do so. You know, do you think you'll take advantage of that, or where do you see it at the end of the year for the Spartans?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the way Central Michigan looked, and you know, Boise State, Air Force looked pretty good. I know it's against an FCS, but I think the Mountain West is up for grabs. I've been telling people like, hey, you're probably going to drop this game in Austin, Texas this weekend. You're going to be 0-2. You go into a bye, which I think will be much needed just to recollect this group next week. Then you get FCS Idaho with a complete roster makeover. And then after that, against Stanford, which we've all seen Stanford in week 0. They don't look too great. But at the same time, you know, that is a team that is, you know, it's a regional matchup. San Jose State versus Stanford means a lot, you know, to the people out here in the Bay. And I think a lot of people are excited that game in particular is, you know, up and running again. That game's in Palo Alto. So, you know, if San Jose State can head into conference play 2-2 and then just let everything else, you know, handle the way it may be, you know, in the conference portion of the schedule, you know, I think the opportunity is there. They don't play Boise State. They don't play UNLV. They don't play Colorado State. They get Fresno State at home. They get Air Force at home. It's a very favorable schedule. That's why they are picked high on the preseason polls. So, you know, for the Texas fan base out there, don't be shocked if you're looking at San Jose State come December timeframe. You're like, whoa, this team is hosting a Mountain West championship game. Whoa, they're on the road at Boise State in that Friday night clash. So, you never know. And, you know, this is the beauty of the sport, right? You play one of these teams and, you know, it's September and then they completely blossom into something else and, you know, take that next step in the second half of the season. So we'll see how it goes, but this is definitely one of the more, you know, seasons out here in San Jose where you're like, okay, you got to win games, you got to deliver, and the expectations need to be there.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, you know, you can like the talent, you can like the roster, the coach, you know, everything around. You know, you got to go do it, you know, and that's where we're at right now. We like everything that we have. We're happy with coaching, most of us, and it's just a matter of getting it done on the football field, man. And so, similar to yourself, you got a few weeks, you know, get yourself right, figure out more and more about yourself and where you need to go from there, and you know, just roll with the punches, man. Because again, there's so much turnover in college football each and every year. Rosters look different, you know, so that is a conference that truly is up for grabs, like just about every single other one. I'm not going to ask you to make an official prediction here, Nick, but what do you think? Did San Jose State get inside the number? It was 36.5 the last time that I saw it. It's pretty big number, but again, Texas coming off a loss, particularly when they struggled on offense. I can see why they might want to score some points here.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, if you were to tell me like, hey, did they stay within that? My guess would be yes. You know, it'd probably be something around that within that range. So I think you'll have yourself a nice little fourth quarter sweat job. But you know, as far as you know, this game's concerned, I wouldn't be shocked if like San Jose, you know, hits one of those kind of explosive type plays that we've seen from them, especially early on in this game, because I do think Texas will properly adjust and, you know, make sure that doesn't happen again. You know, I think Scudero's good for one. Smith might be good for one. So, you know, we'll see what happens here with Walker. I would, you know, just hope for his sake, and especially with the 3 turnover performance, you know, last week, you know, he doesn't have any turnovers in a game like this. It could, you know, instill some confidence within him. But, you know, guys, I'm just very curious, I guess, from the Texas standpoint in this, because you got UTEP and you got Sam Houston, like the next games following after San Jose. Like, what's the approach in the second half if you do have the sizable lead? Because I do think you got to figure out, from my perspective, you guys got to figure out what you guys have in Arch. And I do think you guys are going to have success running the ball, especially the way Central Michigan did last week against us. So, Wisner and Baxter should get theirs. So I'm interested to see from that standpoint, like, hey, are you guys still throwing the ball with Arch just to build that chemistry? Or, is it, you just kind of get into, your softer type plays where you just run the ball. So an interesting perspective that I will be most certainly looking out for as this game goes on. But, you guys got some stuff to figure out, I feel like. And I think, San Jose State does as well.
No, really well said, man. And that's something that I personally, I've said on camera. I'm throwing that thing until early in the fourth quarter, man. With Arch Manning, I am building every bit of rep. I'm getting all the nerves out. Let's keep him safe, obviously, but let's get him involved in the ground game a few times. That's me personally. But all right, Nick, we gotta get you out of here, man. Thank you so much for coming on Inside Texas here with us live and talking San Jose State. Best of luck this weekend. Best of luck in the Mountain West Conference. And if there's anybody out there in San Jose watching right now and you don't know who Nick is, I mean, it's time to start following, paying attention, and diving into his content. He did a heck of a job here tonight. So thank you, Nick. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for the invite, and we'll be definitely talking down the road.
Yes, sir. Have a great night, brother. All right, guys, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor, David McClellan, and we'll get right back to it.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
All right, guys, let's get to it, Nash. It's time for our side, brother. It's time for Texas. What do we need to see, man? Give me a couple of things just right off the top of your head, man, that you're going to be looking out for. You're going to be looking to see out of Texas offensively, defensively on Saturday. We're not overreacting to what we saw in week one. I don't think there's still a lot of good that we saw, but what are the main things that you're looking for Saturday?
I want to start to see our wide receivers dominate in coverage. And then if they are covered, to really, dominate in those one-on-ones. Like a guy like Ryan Wingo, hey, I mean, like, we need you to be a contested catch guy, right? Like there's going to be a time this year where, like I said earlier, for the Nick Nash thing, we're going to be, 3rd and 10, and hey, we're going to need to just chunk a ball up there. Can you be that guy? I think Endries is probably that, that our contested catch guy right now. 2 would be, on to Endries' point, the screen game was almost completely gone. And I'm going to stick with all the offense right here, but like, we only saw really one of the traditional Steve Sarkisian screens, but that play went for 10 yards. So it's like, why did we not see more of those? And then the other thing would be is, if you noticed, I mean, when we watched Steve Sarkisian put the guy in motion, it wasn't fast, right? Like you weren't seeing wide receivers darting around back there, like getting out, trying to beat somebody to get out of position. Like, this was slow motion stuff. You got like Endries out there jogging to outside. And I'm not saying that Endries is doing anything wrong, but it's just, that's not what we've seen from Steve Sarkisian in the past. I mean, when you see Steve Sarkisian, you see like his stuff is like a mad scientist, cooking together some crazy stuff, right? So it's just that those are 3 kind of some things I want to see, wide receivers dominate, and then basically Steve Sarkisian get back to be a little bit more of that Steve Sarkisian offense that we've known and seen. But maybe those passes aren't in there because that's something that, or those plays aren't something that Arch Manning runs well.
I mean, honestly, I upon watching the game live, man, I'm with you. I thought, we saw a lot less motion than we've ever seen out of Sarkisian.
No, we saw the motion, but it just wasn't. They weren't running around fast. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, I should have said. You saw some orbit motion with like Xavier Worthy, our arc motion, depending on who you ask, flying around. I know what you're saying. It just didn't. It felt just not sluggish, but just a little bit slower paced. It almost felt like we were going to wear them down, keep their defense on the field, which makes sense when you have a Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, etc. on the other sideline. You do want to keep them off the field. I like the idea of wearing them down a little bit, but yeah, I know what you mean. I definitely can say that it didn't look exactly like we've seen in the past, but again, Sarkisian does, kind of recreate or readdress his offense around each team that he has. But I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this comment real quick because I absolutely agree. Texas is going to have weapons. And what we saw from some of these weapons, like a Ryan Wingo, was, I'm not going to say it was a lazy route, but it wasn't a sharp route on the interception. A route that needed to be flattened off. DeAndre Moore is going to be a good receiver, has really good rapport, but he also at times against good secondaries has, he's kind of disappeared some, call it how it is. Jack Hendries is going to be open against almost anybody. Let me tell you, that's a big body. He's got good feet. He's got good hands. And again, got to compliment the blocking that he put on at Ohio State. He missed on a couple, but overall, he handled himself very, very well in the blocking department. Was open a few times where Arch didn't see him. One of the catches that he made with somebody, it might have been Downs, draped on his back. Not the one on 4th down, but it was early in the game on 3rd and 3. I mean, it didn't get called as a first down. It was right there on the spot, but we ended up successfully sneaking at that time. But Arch had him for a while, saw him, and committed to the throw, made the throw very late. But it was that right there. That was like, all right, everything that we hear about Jack Hendries, the grown man hands, the best hands in maybe 20 years for a tight end at Texas. That to me proved true very, very quick. And so, yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, get him the football.
Yeah.
There's again when you're figuring things out elsewhere. I'll let you go 1 second, Ash. Get him the ball because he looked game ready from the jump.
Yeah, no, I mean, like he's one of those guys where even if he's covered, he's open, right? Like he's like just throw him the ball.
He's posting you up. It's like basketball.
My only complaint about Jack Hendries from Saturday is that one play that you were talking about, and it's not. The only thing is, bro, just get a yard more depth on that route.
Mm-hmm.
Makes where it's, hey, we can't question if it's a 4th down. We can't it is a 1st down. He caught the ball, changed the moving, right? That's my only, and that's one of those little tiny detail things. But outside of that, I mean, like, not just a route run, like he was getting open, like you said.
It's the awareness,
the ability to block too, and honestly, I think that this is something that he has that maybe a Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders weren't as good at, the blocking area. I mean, this is what really makes him a dangerous tight end, because the one screen that you did see with him, it was a tight end leak where, hey, he's like looking like he's going to go out there and block. He's just blocking, setting the edge, extra man on protection, and then turns around, catches the ball, flies up the yard, or flies up the field for 10 yards. Like he's the type of guy, man, that Steve Sarkisian, he can, run him inside and then leak him out in the middle, and oh crap, who was covering him? I thought he was blocking. Like I got to respect him as a blocker.
You say that, and early in the game, there's a little confusion. I know I was kind of asking a couple of different people what they thought. This was before we, were able to see a replay, but when Arch Manning in the 4th and 2 in the first drive of the game, when we're in plus territory and we don't pick it up because we run the split zone concept with Jack Hendries dragging across. And, at first I was like, well, Jack just kind of threw his shoulder at this guy. Why is he not committed to the block? But to me, it looked like an RPO. Just needed to see another replay before I would say, oh, yeah, definitely was. Because, I mean, it didn't even seem that Arch really even considered pulling that football there. And that's what had kind of confused me there. But by looking back at it, Jack did a really good job. He settled in like he was going to block just a hair, released. He was wide open. Arch could have pulled it and ran. Arch could have flipped it out there into the flats with Jack Hendries and probably got a pretty solid, pickup there. But again, no one was perfect on the field. Saturday, some guys had some really dang good football games. Jack Injuries, I thought overall was one of the guys that had a big one. And yeah, thanks for watching, David. And I agree with you, man. We got to be, until everybody gets more comfortable as far as, or maybe Arch more comfortable in the downfield stuff. Nothing wrong with attacking, to Jack Injuries. Now, I will say this is that Caleb Downs was sitting on top of Jack, so very many times. And so there will be games where it's going to feel for Jack Injuries like he's just running through freedom, just in an open field, because Downs isn't just shadowing that man, and I mean, that's a guy of great ability. And you saw, obviously, Downs is the guy who made the ultimate, deciding tackle on that fourth down where we came up short. But, for me, Nash, I want to see a continued, focal point on the ground game. I really would like to see a little bit earlier in the ground. I know this is a game that you fully expect to win in very convincing manner, but I'd still like to see a little bit of, design runs for Arch early. I just think it might give him the opportunity to take a bigger breath. He will settle into this whole thing. I have no doubt in that, but let's go ahead and expedite that process the best we can. I would love to see him do so at Ohio State on Saturday, but it is what it is at this point. So I'm going to say it, man. I need to see Christian Clark. A lot of people at Inside Texas have been saying the same thing. I'm a big fan of this guy's, and I think, this is a great opportunity to earn some trust from Sarkisian, a guy we could see late in the second quarter, maybe early in the third. If we see it earlier, cool. But I just want to see a little bit more explosiveness, a little bit more playmaking at running back. And Trey Wisner is still going to be a massive part of this offense. So will Cedric Baxter. But I want to see if Christian Clark does have that home run hitter potential, if he does have that ability. But again, I want to see the ball. I want to see us running the football because, again, to pick up the tough yards on the short down and distances, something that was a big bugaboo for Texas last year. I felt cool, or good seeing Texas come out, turn around, running some counter, running the split zone, having more openness in their run game concepts than we did a year ago. And so, I mean, I'd love to see that. But again, we're going to have plenty of opportunity in this game, in my opinion, for two things. One, to sack the passer. This is a team that threw the ball 43 times last week. They're going to run a ton of different concepts when they do it. It will be quick. There will be screens, but there will be opportunity to get to Walker Eget. And then two, there's going to be opportunities to turn the ball over in the air. I want to see some interceptions this week. Young man threw two of them last week. He's a D1 quarterback, so going to have a great arm. But let's go make him make some bad decisions, turn him over a couple times. Because one thing that we don't know about this team is that they can take the football away from opponents the way that the teams in the last year did for Texas. It was such a big plus for us. It felt like Jahdae Barron just always had a football in his hands on that side of and him and a couple others, just ball hawks, if you will. Want to see that out of this group. Looking defensively wise, Nash, were you pretty pleased with the play, with the overall play on Saturday? And, if anything different are you looking to see on this Saturday, rather?
Pleased with the defensive play would be a massive understatement. I mean, to me, it's absolutely criminal that we got to see a defensive performance like that from Texas. And it's just been complete. It's overshadowed by two things. One, Ohio State, great defensive performance, right?
Right.
But two, if you're talking about Texas, you're talking about Arch Manning, right? It's like, well, hey, by the way, I understand that we didn't get any sacks, right? But we were hitting the quarterback. We were getting pressure on the guy. But like that defense did a pretty damn good job against a really good football team. And for all the I think that the real reason that Ryan Day chose to be more conservative is he understands really the importance of the turnover battle. And you look at it, it was a 1-0 turnover battle. The one time that Ohio State gets a turnover, they score the touchdown that ends up being the separator in the game. I think he realized, look, saying we need to be taking care of the ball, right? We got specific things that we want to get done with this football, and that's where you saw the thing with Jeremiah Smith. I think you might have seen him being a little timid to take that shot, even though Jeremiah Smith is wide open, right? Running down the field. Thank God he didn't throw it there. But it's just one of those deals where I think they walked in with hey, Texas is on a 46-game turnover streak, right? I'm not really worried about this team's ability to turn over the football because I do think that is one of these I think there's a certain like thing to be said about, hey, you know, like certain players are special, right? They got a knack for, you know, like an
Finding
Earl
the football.
Thomas. Like they're Caden Stearns, right? They know how to get there, right? But at the same time, I do think a lot of it is taught, right? Uh, like tip drills, fumble recoveries. Like a lot of people, they like to think that these things are random, and they are. I mean, they are to a certain point. I mean, the ball is literally shaped so that every bounce is random. But when you sit there and you train at it, and if you look at the like over historical data on teams, like for example, the 2010s through all that decade, Alabama's out there, they're dominating turnovers despite constantly replacing guys. And yeah, they are bringing in a lot of talent, but I mean, you can't say Texas has a lot of talent on our roster too, right? So I do think it is a lot of what's being taught. So I'm not really too worried about that, about turnovers. I think those are going to come, and I think that kind of Ohio State just did a really, really good job of taking care of the football. Julian's saying, look, like if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm through the moon about what I've seen from Julian saying.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I mean, he was calm, cool, collected the entire time. They did not get into a ton of their passing stuff. You know what I mean? They kept it way more vanilla than Texas, kept it, and we were being accused of a very vanilla game plan. Ohio State had a 2-touchdown lead. They did not have to go and press the football down the field or do anything crazy in the last quarter of a half. You didn't see that at all. And yeah, there will be a time where that offense is a little bit more difficult to defend. But either way, Texas did a phenomenal job in dealing with everything that Ohio State did, only allowing them to cross midfield twice in modern football. And with Ryan Day, the offensive mind that he has, a Chip Kelly, and then obviously all the talent they have on that roster, it definitely is a very impressive feat. I believe you. I'm with you. I think they'll turn the football over. I just need to start seeing, who is going to be find me the guy that has those great instincts like a Jahdae Barron. You are right. It is a mix of, being a great student of the game, having ball knowledge in the film room, paying attention to the little things, experience, talent, instincts. It takes all those things blended together to be somebody that's in the right, just, seems or is deemed to be in the right spot at the right time. Pretty on a often occurrence, if you will, like the Jahdae did last year. So go back to like Jalen Ford, who had he had like 6 or 7 picks in a year at the linebacker position. That just another example. But I just want to see the football turned over a little bit. I would love to see what we have in Will Shipley in the kicking game. I know that we didn't get a chance really to see him with any type of pressure. Again, he'll be kicking in what should be a meaningless game at DKR in front of the home crowd. But there's going to be a time where Texas needs this young man and, hit a big kick or two, because we're going to be in some dogfights here. So going to need that. I just want to see what it looks like. Go ahead and get him some reps. Let me go back to David's comments real quick. I'm with you. I'm not going to sit there and say that he's a certified bona fide home run hitter, but I want to see, because I do like his one cut ability more than I like a Trey Weissner or Cedric Baxter. I think he has a touch more juice. And again, we said last week, we thought several plays were blocked for a little more than they were picked up. And again, I think it's more about the speed. I'm with you. I don't think the speed is there. I think his cut ability is there to where he can get himself out in the open field and pick up some chunk plays. So don't disagree at all with you there. Guys, if you haven't done so, please like this video real quick. And if you haven't subscribed to Inside Texas, you should have done that a long time ago. So go ahead and hop on that. It's free. It takes no time to do so. All right, Nash, let's talk about this. This is, one of my favorite things to do here on the pregame show, just a different platform this time. We're doing game balls, brother. Give me an offensive and a defensive game ball this Saturday at Texas San Jose State.
Okay, defensive game ball. This is so easy for me. Leon LaFowl. That dude is flying around like
this week.
Oh, for this. Okay. I thought we were talking about Pratt. Oh.
No, at some point I got to move on. It's my fault for dredging it back up.
Good.
But for San Jose State,
for San Jose State, I mean, offensive game ball. It's look. I want it to be Arch Manning, right? Like, because if it's Arch Manning, hey, we're feeling a little bit better, right? And I think we should be feeling fine right now. Like, it's not like the the dog sipping his coffee in the room full of fire, saying like, this is fine. That's not us right now, not yet at least. But I'm gonna say Jack injuries game ball. I want to see him get over 100 yards in this game. I think that he's a really big athletic guy that we need to see a little bit more target to him. Like I want to see some emphasis on getting him the football early on, and maybe some specialized plays. We'll see. Like you said about San Jose State. I mean, it's the same kind of it goes for Texas, except for it's not as much. We're more or less going in there trying to practice. Hey, we got things that we want to practice. We want to look a certain way. It right now it's more like, hey, for example, at Jack injuries, it's like Jack injuries versus Jack injuries, right?
Right.
You got to go out there and you got to execute, and regardless of the opponent in front of you.
Yep.
Same, and that's what we're looking for versus San Jose State. They're looking, they want to see how they measure up against some guys and for later on in the year. But this is one of those deals where you don't want to reveal too much, right? you don't want to be whipping out any special plays, but at the same time, hey, now these are also the games where maybe you throw something out there, right? That like, hey, now Brent Venables in week 6 or whatever week we play Oklahoma. Now he's like, well, crap, I gotta scheme for, I gotta worry about, like, I gotta make a little part of my game plan just for these 3 plays that Steve Sarkisian threw in these games, right? Just because you don't know, right? So I don't know, like this. I am looking for Jack Andrews to get some use, but be interested to see like how much we see from him. But and then defensively, I'm just gonna stick with Leon Lafau. I think dude's a beast.
He just had his overall best game in Burnt Orange, and he had some pretty big ones in his breakout season last year. David's got Michael Taft having as many interceptions this year. Yeah, I would love to pick this Saturday from Mookie in front of the home crowd, get some going. So you said Jack injuries and Leona Lafau. I'm going to go with, let's see here on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to roll with the guy that I've been rolling with for a while. We're going Christian Clark. Going to come in and have 2 touchdowns, about 75 yards in mop-up duty, of course. But, hey, it's going to be a nice little breaking out party or coming out party, if you will. In my opinion, for Christian Clark, I expect to see close to double-digit carries. I'm thinking I might not be too far off with that. Defensively, I'm going to go with Grayson Littleton. I'm going to say that he gets his first pick, not only his first pick, but that he scores a touchdown as well to go along with it. He was in the right spot a lot, very often on Saturday at Ohio State. A very, very, very solid start for the very highly heralded young man. He's getting a turnover.
About as good as it can go, man.
And
with Jeremiah Smith.
Yep. As many opportunities as the ball will be, in the air this weekend from Walker Eaget, the Spartan starting quarterback. There's going to be opportunities, and I think Grayson finds one, and he's housing it. That's the play. He's going to get in the end zone there. I was talking to a guy on Twitter about that earlier today. Just a feeling. We'll see if it comes to fruition. Nash, as far as game prediction, Texas is going to win the football game. They're going to do so comfortably. Do they do so? That 36.5 point spread, is that something Texas flirts with, or you wouldn't touch it? What do you think?
Steve Sarkisian, I feel like you got the 52-0 Colorado State, but like I feel like Steve Sarkisian in all these like games that we're supposed to have a big spread in, like hammer the under on that spread, because he's just. Look, this is who Steve Sarkisian is. We are never going to see that guy that's like, he'd have to be really, really, really mad at another coach to run up a score, right? I don't think I've ever seen him run up a score, and it's one of those deals where like I know you're one Arch Manning out there until the fourth quarter, unless San Jose State's scoring points. Arch Manning is going to get one drive in the third quarter. If you notice, when we're up 21 points,
oh yeah,
against these lower level teams, the starting quarterback comes out there, one drive in the third quarter, done. You're done. Your day's over. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot like that for Arch Manning. I just, a passing team like San Jose State, like I feel like they might they could just hit one or two, especially against the when you start getting into like the twos and the threes.
Right.
Well, not even the twos, but more or less the threes on our team. Like I just when you start getting those guys in, that's where like, hey, maybe they might be able to start doing something, and that's where those you might see your bet wind up on Scott Van Pelt's busted bet show.
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with y'all. Sark is not one to rub anything in. I think he has been, pretty generous with a few coaches. Sometimes maybe even Oklahoma, we probably could have ran it up on those guys a little bit. Something that Bob Stoops did to Matt Brown back in the day, which is why I was in the crowd screaming, "Go ahead, Sark, return the favor." 60 points here from David. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun hour or a couple hours inside of DKR. I think that Texas gets into the low 50s here. I really do. I have a defensive touchdown included in that. But I think we see a lot of points. I wouldn't be shocked if we see San Jose State score a time or two just because of their style of play. We will, as Nash said, get into the twos and threes, guys that will one day be a big part of the defense. But again, out there in game reps, early in their careers, we've seen some garbage time touchdowns in these matchups plenty of times. But overall, Nash, where does your confidence stand 1 through 10 and Arch Manning at the moment as far as hey, he's going to figure this whole thing out and he's going to be a quarterback by the end of this year that many people thought he was going to be. When I say many, I think you know what I'm talking about, but that a lot of people thought he was going to be immediately coming into the season.
8.5. I'm still really confident. Like, I mean, I think that Chase Daniels had an excellent breakdown on Arch Manning, and I mean, there's been a lot of breakdowns on Arch Manning out there, and they're all pretty good. I would say for Arch Manning, man, like looking back at who he was playing, Caleb Downs, and then also like just the environment that he was in, like I am full on willing to give him a pass, right? Because he's and on the all-22, every single time that he's going out there to pass, his eyes are glued on one player pre-snap. Right? He's watching one guy.
Sometimes he double checked, sometimes he triple checked where Caleb was.
Yeah. He's like, I want to see where this guy is, right? And that's where like Downs can start lying to him. You start to see. But I think the thing that was probably the most encouraging, like I think you're going to see the mechanics clean up. You're going to see the accurate passes, right? And I have confidence in that because we've already seen it, right? It's not like a deal where, hey, he showed this sort of in Mississippi State, ULM, UTSA, right? No, he was really accurate in those games.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm willing to bet that this is, it's not a perfect analogy, but like when you're cooking your first brisket or you're grilling your first steak, especially if you got like the prime ribeye or something like that, right? You spent $30 on this thing, like you're trying to you want that thing to be perfect, right?
Of course.
And it's stressful, it's intense. You're sitting there, you're like, and you probably got a burnt steak at the end too, right?
Yeah.
But so it's one of those deals where like I think that the pressure kind of got to Arch Manning, and but as the game went on, I think the most encouraging thing was you actually start to see, hey, like he starts to like look the safety over, and he starts to do some more advanced things against a really, really complicated defense, which shows that he had not only the ability to understand the defense that he was facing, he started to understand how to manipulate them to get the looks that he wanted. So this is one of those deals where, like, I mean, he's probably seen that film countless times by now, right? And I mean, that's honestly some of the film that's the most important is the ones that when you do bad.
Of course.
When you do good, you can't, like, coaches, they just have to sit there and pat you on the back. They're trying to look for things to nitpick. There's plenty to nitpick in that game, right? There's plenty to work on. So I think that this is one of those deals where Arch Manning's going to have learned a lot from that game. You just get his confidence built up over these next 3 games, and I think he's going to walk into Florida with all the experience that he needs. He's going to have been like, hey, well, okay, I was at the shoe. Okay, check that off, right? My confidence is, back up. I've been hitting these passes. there's also something to be said about a little bit of a muscle memory, repetitions, getting those things in. You know, I mean, if you're hitting guys in the chest, you know, constantly in practice, and then you actually go out there and do it in games in DKR, that's probably going to carry over a little bit more versus, hey, we're doing it just in practice, and all of a sudden, okay, now we're all of a sudden in real time, and oh crap, like eyes are wide open.
Yeah, in front of 100,000 Buckeye fans with Caleb Downs and Matt Patricia, you know,
Celebrating
a
national championship.
And it's not, you know, coping. It's not making excuses. It's just, again, it's addressing the fact that a lot of people that are not dialed in to the program, a lot of people that don't really have a clue what's going on in Austin, just naturally assumed and built him up to be the best thing that college quarterbacks, you know, have ever seen. So I am with you. I'd say 8.5 2. I like that number. The reason I'll say 8.5 is that it's really a 10, but it's never going to be what some media has built Arch up to be. You know, I mean, like, obviously he has a lot of lore in the family. You've got an Uncle Eli and Uncle Peyton who did incredible things. He is his own quarterback. He's his own person. And so many people have already decided that he's winning multiple Super Bowls. We'll see, you know, if that gets there, but I have full confidence that he turns around, as Nash just said, finds the comfortableness that he'll find with in-game reps. He'll learn to continue to manipulate defenses. Just going to slow it down a little bit. Once that mental process slows down a little bit for Arch Manning, everything will fall into place. His body work, his mechanics, it'll all look a lot better. Full confidence in that.
I mean, he was like, I just want to add this in real quick. Like you said, the mental speed, the game was going 1,000,000 miles an hour for him. And I think if you're a Texas fan, one of the best things that you could have seen from Arch Manning is he was going on a lot of times to his third read. He wasn't just getting off his first or second read and then, you know, losing his mind. So even when his mind was scrambled, he was still had the ability to get to his third read at a lot of times, which is a really good thing. And then, you know, him throwing in the check down, there were a lot of positive signs.
No, well said. I agree. Guys were open that he was throwing to. Some windows were tight.
He made some bad misses.
He had really bad misses. He was flying through progression so very quickly that he might have missed some other reads that were open. And, you know, he was making all of his decisions a lot quicker than he'll do that on Saturday, in my opinion. Yeah, he'll grow. It'll all be okay. The offense, in my opinion, is going to be in a very good spot by the time that they go to Florida due to all the reps. You have a bye week. You really are going to learn a lot about your identity on that side of the football. And so, I'm excited to watch it, man, to see how it all plays out. I know he'll bounce back. What type of game how far will Sark let him go in this game? Is he chucking it all over, or are we still running the ball a lot? You know, I think we'll see a little bit of everything on Saturday. We'll get everybody involved. We'll get pretty deep into that running back depth chart. But yeah, thank you guys for watching here with me and Nash tonight. Nash, thank you for joining me, my friend. And I hope to see all you guys at DKR very, very soon. Y'all have a good rest.